Cecil Taylor is more in the mold of a Duke Ellington or a Bud Powell, for example, than someone who would imitate these people. From a creative aspect, they are people who dare to think for themselves and introduce us to new ideas and new forms, still in the tradition of this area of American music that is called jazz.
It was one of the major achievements that I have participated in. It was one of the major achievements that I alone have had the pleasure of sharing.
This is Jim Luce in New York, featuring the historic meeting of two giants of jazz, Max Roach and Cecil Taylor. Their historic concert performances in the Macmillan Theater at Columbia University in 1979 caught the attention of the jazz world because it was the first time in the history of this music they had played together. Cecil came to the New York scene fresh from the New England Conservatory. He became very active in what was to become known as the Avant-garde movement. There were some personal highlights.
Getting to know Eric Dolphy, for instance, getting to know Albert Eiler. I mean, Jimmy Lyons and I started working together in 1960. Met Sonny Murray around 1961, 1962. So there was a nucleus that was already happening, and we were all pretty embattled.
Max Roach had already been on the New York scene. Uptown, downtown, east side, and west side, he became one of the most in-demand drummers and played with most of the creative legends of jazz.
The information as to the technique of the music is usually passed down, as Charles Mingus has often said, from mouth to mouth. So it's not a matter of saying I'm doing anything anybody else isn't doing. I just enjoy working with different areas, just not just staying with, say, a format, say like a quintet or quartet. I enjoy working with, say, classical musicians. I enjoy working with breakers and rappers. It stimulates me because I remember when I was there too, and I get things from them and I hope they get things from me. And I must say that Cecil Taylor is one of the high points of my musical career to have had the opportunity to perform with this great musician. Not just simply a musician, that he is just, an instrumental technician, but also one of the most powerful creative forces that you put along with the people like Mr. Ellington and Charlie Parker, Dizzy, Mr. Thelonious Monk, and Miles Davis, etc. So, I've always considered my being involved with people of that stature as a blessing, if you will. And Cecil Taylor was something I had been looking forward to for many, many years.
The chance finally came for Max to play with Cecil in a duo setting in the late part of 1979 in the Macmillan Theater at Columbia University. Cecil Taylor.
Well, the original inspiration wasn't mine. When I played at the White House in 77 or 78, after I finished playing, Max came over and said, I'd like to do something with you. I had done one track with Tony Williams. Max also had been at the Mary Lou Williams concert that the great lady and myself did in Carnegie Hall. And There was a shop on 57th Street called Vim and Vigor, and I went in there, and there was Max Roach. And we came out, and we started talking. And I guess it was about a year later when the event happened.
I knew that Cecil Taylor, coming out of New England Conservatory, had, and when I went by his studio to just talk about the session and seeing his record collection, that had, from Vivaldi up to B.B. King to the Rolling Stones, everybody, that he was a man who was as interested in the same things that I was. This is an American way of doing things. You know, our whole culture's like that. But look at our architecture. It has a little bit of everything in it. You know, it's not totally French, but it is. It's not African like we just did a shoot up in Harlem and so forth. You see African names, Ashanti, so-and-so shop. So our culture, I think, is rich with everything that the world comes up with culturally, because we are multiracial, multi-religious, multi-everything. So we get a chance to experience many things. It's a cross-cultural place. And when I realized that, and knowing his own background, the sense of form and phrasing, to use musical terms, and design, and was all there. So there was no problem. We didn't have to really just sit down and rehearse. And having listened to his music all these years, I knew that it would work, and I hoped that, and I felt that he felt the same way about me. So this is just during our general conversation. We didn't have to rehearse. We knew we both, knowing our backgrounds, knew that we knew how to begin and end. We knew how to build. We knew how to create the kind of tension and release, if I might say. We knew these elements that is basic to all music and to all art. If you write a poem, you have to have a sense of tension and release, tension and release. So this was what it was all about.
Cecil Taylor and Max Roach in a duo setting. How did Cecil regard the prospect of playing with Max?
Magic, magic, magic. At that time I was living on Chambers Street. And I had a wonderful loft there. It was on the top floor, you know, and you had to walk up, I think, 4 flights of steps. And so the first time that Max came, he got to the top of the landing, and I was standing at the door, and he extended his arm, and he said, "This is for you." And it was a bottle of the most beautiful wine that I'd ever tasted. He talked like, it reminded me of the best teachers that I had in the conservatory. I can remember them very vividly. There was one woman who used to talk about everything except music until the last 10 minutes, and then magically compressed, you'd walk away feeling that you really got something, you know. And it was like that with Max.
This is Jim Luce with a look at two great musicians, Cecil Taylor and Max Roach, together. We'll be back after this. Jim Luce back with you. Let's check out a portion of the Max Roach Cecil Taylor Historic Concert LP. This is an excerpt from Duets, Part 2. From Duets Part 2, Max Roach and Cecil Taylor together. Max Roach.
Working with Cecil Taylor, you can just use your imagination to its nth degree, so to speak. The full range of the instrument and your imagination, you can bring to play with working with Cecil. You can call upon mallets or brushes or snare or cymbals at any given time, and depending, of course, on your own experience and taste, it will work. When we hit the stage, from the very first sound to the very last sound, it's demanding on us as two artists, and that energy is transferred out to the audience, and they usually stand up and cheer and become involved with us, because I guess from our expressions and body language on the stage, they realize that we're intense, and we're listening seriously to each other, and we're both being surprised by what the other does. So we're having a ball up there on stage, and I think that perhaps is what transfers itself to the audience, to the public.
Max feels there's a lot of give and take with Cecil.
Oh, there's a lot of ego, pride, and combativeness and love. All of that's involved in it. I mean, it's give and take and give through the whole performance. You work with Cecil Taylor. You work with Cecil Taylor. You put out. He puts out. You have to put out.
So it's completely stimulating.
It's completely stimulating. It really is. And I can say that, I've had other experiences that were as rewarding as that, of course, and that's working with Dizzy and Charlie Parker and Miles and Bud Powell, and working with Duke Ellington in the setting with Charles Mingus. There are highlights in one's life where you can compare not the style so much as the kind of exhilarating and wonderful feeling you get from just exhausting yourself by giving up everything you have and making it work.
The historic concert of Cecil Taylor and Max Roach is available on Soul Note Records, distributed by Polygram, Special Imports. Special thanks to associate producer Paul Sakolowski. This is Jim Luce in New York. Thanks for listening.